Gracious and loving God, you are here with us. Open our eyes to see you. Open our ears to hear what you have to say to us today. Open our minds to comprehend it, and open our hearts to go deeper into your message. God, once again, I invite you to speak through me and in spite of me, that somehow my words might contain your message to all of us. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, we're feasting in the Gospel of John once again. We might remember that John's Gospel is a little different from Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the synoptics. When we come to the synoptic Gospels, we look at them with one viewing or one eye, the synoptics, the same view. And the synoptics tell the stories of Jesus and what Jesus did. I remember Luke's gospel says, I have given you an orderly account of the life of Jesus, like many others have tried to do. But John's gospel is different, because John is more concerned with who Jesus is for us and what Jesus gives us, what these gifts are, what Jesus offers us, and the identity of the Christ for us in our lives. And early on in John, we remember these wonderful gifts that Jesus gives us in who Jesus is and what he offers us. And in the very beginning, Jesus is light in the darkness. And then in the second chapter of John, he's wine, good wine. Wine is symbolic also of joy and abundance. And so we get this picture of who Jesus is for us. And then in the third chapter, we have John 3:16, that he is love for the world that he offers. And then living water to the woman at the well, the kind of living water that you will not ever thirst again, this sort of satisfaction of the needs that we have, satisfying our every need in that. And then healing. Remember in the next chapter, he heals a man by the pool. And he asked this question, do you want to get better? Do you want to be healed? And I think that question echoes through time for us as well. And then he is bread for thousands. He says, I am the bread from heaven, the manna. And then light and sight to the blind. He opens the eyes of a man blind from birth and creates lots of controversy in that. He says, I am the light of the world. All these images. And then Lazarus, he raises from the dead. He is life after death. He says, I am the resurrection and the life. And then to his last week, for his very, very scared disciples, all locked together in a room, huddled together, he offers peace. He is all these things for us and more. It's a feast. It's abundant life for us. And now we are in John 21. And it's the epilogue of John's gospel. It could have ended in chapter 20, but I'm so glad that the community of John and the writers put this chapter in. It's this beautiful picture, ending of John's gospel. The disciples have been fishing all night. And of course, in John, there's many, many layers. And so you have this image of darkness, and the disciples have gone back to fishing, and they're unable to catch anything all night. And then as the sun is coming up, they see Jesus on the beach. They don't know it's him. They see a mysterious figure on the beach. And we all know it's Jesus on the beach. It's very exciting. And Peter, connecting back to Genesis, when Adam and Eve are in the presence of God and they realize that they need to put clothes on, Peter kind of does the same thing. He sees Jesus and he puts his clothes on, and he jumps in the water, and Jesus says, put your net on the other side, and they catch 153 fish, and the net doesn't break, and they haul the fish to shore. And there's Jesus, and they're kind of freaked out. They know it's Jesus, and so nobody says anything about it. They're just really excited and happy, and it's just this wild sort of moment for all of them. And Jesus on the on the shore gives them these things, 3 more things that all of us need. And I want to kind of talk about those 3 things today. 3 things that we all need, and here they are. Breakfast, belonging, and purpose. All of us need these 3 things. And I'm struck by how Jesus offers these 3 things in the story today in John 21. All 3 of those things. And the first one is this: breakfast. Man, we all need breakfast. We're wired that way. And I don't care if your breakfast is later in the day. I had a friend named Tom who we would be out and doing stuff, and it'd be like later in the evening, and he'd say, let's have breakfast. He'd cook a big breakfast. I love breakfast. And if there's a life verse, there's a life verse in the Bible that you can sort of hold and lift up. It's the time when Jesus says, let's have breakfast. Like, what's your life verse? How does that speak to your life? Let's have breakfast. I love breakfast. I love that we have breakfast here. My mouth waters a bit when I see Melody Brown come in with her giant tray of breakfast casserole, and so good. And but my favorite breakfast food of all time is breakfast tacos. Breakfast tacos. And the reason why was I grew up in North Carolina, and we didn't eat breakfast tacos growing up. We really didn't. We had grits. Yeah, everybody know about grits? Grits and eggs and bacon and biscuits, but we didn't have breakfast tacos until I was moved to Texas. And I've been trying to catch up for lost time ever since then. And we have this wonderful picture in the gospel this morning of Jesus. He's offering breakfast, and it's a large breakfast. 153 fish that he's grilling on a charcoal fire. And scholars have debated this number. You know, in John, you look for connections and meaning, and you know that if there's a specific number given, well, it must mean something. And so I did a little digging into the 153, and we really don't know. There was a St. Jerome. Jerome said that this was the number of species of fish, the number of different types of fish that they knew about at the time was 153. So maybe that's it, and maybe this is the gospel's way of communicating that this is everyone, all people included, and there's room for them because the net doesn't tear, so we get these little glimpses of meaning. But really, it could also mean that there was just 153 fish, that's just the number that somebody said, wow, there's a lot of fish, let's count them, and there was 153. And they're cooked over a charcoal fire, and I'm telling you, here's a holy number. I could eat 3 of them. And I mean, I can imagine that. But we're all wired that way. We need to take in nutrition in order to give back energy. We all need breakfast. We're all looking for our breakfast, but Jesus knows that we need more than this. We need more than just this. I had a pastor friend of mine who said that Jesus knows that there are desires that we have that go far deeper than any fishing line can reach. And we have these wishes and dreams that are so wider than any fishing net could ever reach. Jesus knows that we also need belonging. Now, belonging is different from fitting in. Do you know this? It's pretty much the opposite of fitting in. When I was in middle school, I remember we would get dropped off. The parents would drop their kids off, and the buses would come and drop off the kids in an auditorium. And we would be incredibly cliquish. People would be very cliquish. I didn't really even have a group to fit into, but there was the skaters and the book nerds, and there was the other kids that, and I was kind of on the outside trying to fit in. And in order to fit in, I would have to change who I was or to try to be a skater. And if you're not a skater and you try to be a skater, then you're a poser. And so that I fit in with the group of posers, but not really. And it's awkward and it's uncomfortable, and you don't really know where you fit in. And so you kind of wonder. And I wonder if our churches kind of accidentally turn into this sometimes, where there are these groups of people that are huddled together, and they're not turned out to to welcome others, to say, you belong here. You belong with us. Belonging has to do with being accepted for who you are, where you are. That's belonging. And so there's a difference. And for Peter, he had belonged, but he's really messed up and denied Jesus 3 times. And so Jesus takes him aside and asks him, Peter, do you love me more than these? And it was 3 times that he asked him this. The memory is still so fresh of Peter being around another charcoal fire where he said, I do not know him. And this is Jesus' way of pulling Peter back into this community. Peter must have thought that it was a test at first. And it says that he was grieved, that it really hurt his feelings that Jesus asked him 3 times. But I bet when he reflected on it later, he thought, I confessed my love the same amount of times that I denied him, 3 times. Peter is being brought back in to this community, a community that would go from being huddled together in fear to turning out and sharing the love of God with the whole world. It would be a community and a mission that Peter would stretch out his arms and die for because of his love. Breakfast and belonging. But there's more. It was this, purpose. It turns out purpose is one of the greatest motivators. It's more of a motivator than money, more of a motivator than power. It's more of a motivator than even pleasure. We move from seeking pleasure to purpose. Purpose is a fantastic motivator to realize that what we do actually matters, that it makes a difference, that we would be missed if this wasn't happening, if we didn't have this purpose. Purpose is what Peter is given when Jesus says, feed my sheep. Devote yourself to this community. Feed my sheep. Take care of people. Be a leader. He's given a new sense of purpose. Here he is around a charcoal fire. After breakfast, he's told to feed my sheep. That's the question for us too. What will happen to us after breakfast? After we've been fed? It's as if Jesus is saying, you who have been given your breakfast, go find someone who is hungry and feed them breakfast. You who have been blessed with so much, go and be a blessing to others. Now, I don't know where this hinge is for you in your life. There's some scholars have said there's 2 parts of life. There's the part of life where we're accumulating wealth and employment and gaining, and then there's a hinge where we really realize that it's really not stuff that matters so much as significance. That it's not the pleasure that matters so much as the purpose. Feed my sheep. What if this fish, this picture of abundance means more to us if we go deeper in it, when we're sitting around a campfire with plenty of fish, plenty of good wine, plenty of water, plenty of peace, plenty of hope, plenty of presence, plenty of love, plenty of light, plenty of life. We've had our breakfast, and we have it still. And then Jesus says, go and feed my sheep. Where is this hinge for you in your life? When did you go from realizing what really doesn't matter to what really, really does matter. It's our story. Where are you in this story, and where are we as a church? Are we just after our own breakfast, or is it time to feed others? And I love that. I love that about Northern Hills, and I love telling our story. The story of a church that was like 3 miles south of here and realized that they could reach and teach and love more people if we all moved. So the church moved about 15 years ago to this location in order to reach more people. There was a day school that formed, a day school that I try to talk about without tearing up, and it's hard for me to do because I've seen it. I've seen this love in action. I've seen these sheep being fed. I had my 3-year-old came home after he had his feet washed right before Easter, and he's talking more. He's almost 4, and he said, "Dad, I know why they washed my feet." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because Jesus did it, and they just want to be like Jesus." I said, "Yeah, that's it. That's it." We're telling our story of a church that felt a need in the community that it came from, to go and to find a bus route and to purchase a building on this bus route so that we could do ministry with the community, so that we could worship and pray and serve however God leads us. I love hearing those stories. Heard a story from Jim this morning about a guy that came in, and he seemed kind of troubled, and Abdon took him and prayed with him in the chapel, and he came out, and Jim said he gave the most terrific hug. He was touched somehow by Jesus, by the mission and ministry of Jesus continuing in us. It's a beautiful thing. After breakfast, feed my sheep. What will you do after breakfast? There are times in our lives when we need to take in order to give out. Where are you in that? We pray this prayer from St. Francis, and there's this little line in there that says, "It is in giving that we receive." We have had our breakfast, and now it's time to feed the sheep. I don't know what the next chapter of your life will look like, or the next chapter of our church will be. But there's this wonderful way that John's gospel ends that really says this will be continued in you. Jesus did many other things as well. And if every one of them were written down, I suppose that the whole world would not have room for the books that would be written. I think of John chapter 22 still being written in your life and in mine and in our lives together.